God, do I have to stand up to her? Pain is the price of a true partnership. So that was the day I stopped being the villain in my own marriage story. There is a huge difference between taking the blame and taking responsibility. When you're a successful man in business, you're a high achiever, you're used to succeeding at everything, right? You're used to things always working out. You're used to winning. And that's why a divorce can be so devastating, because it feels like such a failure. And the reality is it is. It's a huge failure, but it's not the end. And when you face it that way, just like a failure in business, it can be the doorway to something even better. But your perspective and the way you approach it makes all the difference in the world. Otherwise, you get sucked into the pit of feeling like it's all my fault. It's all me. And again, difference between taking the blame and taking the responsibility. And so that's why this particular day, as I was journaling, as I was going through my last divorce, it was the day I stopped carrying the entire responsibility for the relationship on my own back. Like, this is all on me. And I started demanding mutual responsibility from both myself and from my wife if our marriage was going to survive. This is Diary of a Divorce. My name is Kevin Ray Ward, the founder of Divorce to Victory. And during this period of time that I was going through 6 months of trying to save my marriage and then going through divorce, I made my way through this whole process by journaling every day. In fact, over 2,000, nearly 2,000 pages of journaling. These are the journals that I printed out. I'd sit down every morning, I'd write on my iPad, and I would just document what was going on. And today's episode is called Our Marriage, Our Responsibility. This was about 4 months after she had walked out, and she had come back a couple weeks later, and we're still trying to save our marriage. But I knew that the only way we could save it was if we were both willing to work at it 100% and take mutual responsibility. And what I'm doing and sharing in these episodes of Diary of Divorce is actually sharing directly from my journal. I'm going to read to you exactly my journal entry from this day on our marriage, our responsibility. Because the truth is, you can be succeeding in other areas of your life, like in business, and be failing in your marriage. And the decision you make through that process will determine everything. So this was on November 9th, 2022. What are you going to title this prayer stack? My journal entries are called prayer stacks. Our marriage, our responsibility. My wife and me and our relationship, our marriage, our business partnership is all on the line. I had a total meltdown on Monday, and I apologized again. She made me the bad guy again. Everything's my fault. And I took it on as my fault, everything. And then my mentor gave me a different perspective yesterday. Both of us must be willing to take responsibility for and in our relationship. My wife has not taken any serious responsibility for where we are. She and I have both been putting it all on me. That is totally fucked up. Time to start setting this straight. In a marriage and in a partnership, both must accept responsibility for what happens in the relationship. I have incorrectly taken 100% of the blame and responsibility for anything that's not working in our relationship. How I feel about this? Disgusted, shocked, relieved, angry, and clear. I want God to know, what the fuck? I started this stack in North Carolina over 2 weeks ago. Since then, I've had lots of time to reflect, and I've been on my meditation retreat. And this is the new way this relationship goes. We both share responsibility for what happens in this marriage. This one-way street blame game is over, period. Dear God, thanks for the clarity you have given me on this. I'm about to go into the pit with my wife. I am ready. I'm not looking forward to this, but I know it is what is required. Give me strength, resolve, and grace. I will not grovel. I will not shrink back. This is about moving forward with a healthy, whole, and passionate marriage. I know there is no easy path to a strong relationship, And pain and strength and courage is required to heal what is broken, even for it to even have a chance. The most significant revelation that I'm taking from this is that I was always accepting all the blame in our marriage and in our relationship for everything wrong. My wife must also earn her responsibility in things not working right or being right. Immediate action steps: have a conversation, or at least begin a conversation with my wife where we share responsibility. That was it. It was just coming to terms with the fact that the only way for us to save our marriage and have a healthy marriage going forward was if I stopped being the bad guy all the time. If I stopped being the one taking all the responsibility. If she was not willing to take responsibility for what had happened, take some of the blame and some of the fault for the mistakes that she had made in the relationship, it was never going to work out. And what I had been trying to do was take all the blame and all the fault and just say, I'll do better. I'll make everything right. Like I can make everything right, when she still would not accept responsibility for what had happened. So that was the day I stopped being the villain in my own marriage story. For years, I had carried every ounce of guilt and shame and blame, because that's what the nice guy does, right? I was a nice guy. Successful men, we take ownership for everything. And yet when somebody else is making mistakes, or when they're not owning up to their own responsibility, you can't win unless you're willing to take the accountability for what you're responsible to, but also hold them responsible. So when you take 100% of the blame and you take all the responsibility that it's yours, not only do you rob the other person of their opportunity to grow, but you make it impossible for the relationship to truly be healed and healthy, where both of you have shared responsibility and commitment in the relationship. Because this is what happens. It's crazy to me. I see this happening with men who are extremely successful in business, but at home, because we've never been taught how to lead at home, we sit back and we're passive and we're just like, yes, dear, whatever, dear, I'll do my best, dear. And we become the peasant instead of the leader in our own marriage. And that's not leadership, and that's not control, and that's not how you build a healthy relationship. And the reality is that's not even love. It's groveling disguised as humility. And it's not strong, and it's not courageous, and it's not leadership. So I want to share with you some key lessons that I take out of this conversation that I had with God about my marriage and about trying to save it. Number one, taking responsibility is powerful, but taking blame is weakness disguised as virtue. You see, high performers are used to taking responsibility for problems and fixing the problems. But in relationships, it's a two-way street, and both parties have to accept responsibility and accountability for what happens in the relationship. You start carrying both sides of the marriage, you start trying to carry all the weight, all the blame, all the responsibility for everything. And the moment you do that, you create a child-parent relationship. And the problem is, you're the child. Parent's always right, and the child's the one that's got to measure up. And that doesn't work in a marriage. Second lesson that I take out of this is that true leadership requires that you hold everyone responsible. Yourself and your wife. Both of you. And you can't let her off the hook. Now, this is not about putting all the blame on her. It's about you holding space to say both of us have accountability and responsibility for where we are in this relationship. It's not about domination. It's not about control. It's about creating a standard where both people own their own dysfunction and carry their part in the healing and the overcoming, or the marriage is dead. And this is part of the frame, is that if this cannot happen in your relationship and she is unwilling to take this responsibility, like my ex was unwilling to take responsibility. This is what we tried for 6 months with therapy and everything, and she would never, ever own responsibility. She wanted to put all the blame on me, and it was an impossible relationship. Principle number 3, stop groveling and start growing. Okay, if you made a mistake, own it. Apologize for it. That's totally appropriate. But once you've owned it, once you've apologized for it, once you've made the pivot and you've made the change, let it go. She keeps bringing it up, bro. It's time for you to grow and move forward, and to challenge her that she's got to let it go and she's got to grow and move forward. If she's always looking back in the rearview mirror, all that you did yesterday and what you've done and all this, and she keeps bringing it up and you grovel to that, I know, it's over, man. That's past. You got to put it behind you, and you got to force and require her to put it behind her. Can't force her. But you got to you set the standard. If she's not willing to put it behind her and move forward into a better future, there is no future. Principle number 4, pain is the price of a true partnership. You've got to be willing to have these tough conversations. And I'd been traveling, and when I got back and she had this total meltdown, it was like, okay, we're going to have a conversation about this. I didn't want to have the conversation. I didn't have the conversation that day. I was like, okay, I just apologized and I groveled and I bowed the knee. And then after I talked to my coach about it, he's like, you got to stand up to this. Like, yeah, you're right. I got to stand up to this. God, do I have to stand up to her? Do I have to? Yep, you got to go there. There is no easy path to a strong relationship because you're going to have conflicts. You're going to have differences. It takes courage, it takes clarity, and it takes the willingness to collide with her in order to heal and move past the pit. Period. There is no other way. And then principle number 5, God's way of healing is not comfort. It is courage. See, that day, God didn't tell me to fix He didn't tell me to correct her. He told me to face her, to have the conversation with her with grace and with truth and with strength. And so this is about you transforming you, my friend. The only way your marriage could ever be transformed or saved is first if you transform yourself. And then she's got to make a decision if she's willing to transform herself or not. Okay? And this is true for every man, especially the high achievers. And one of the problems is you know this in business. You can't build a successful business while pretending like the problems don't exist. But yet in our marriage, we want to kind of like, if I just let it go and just ignore it, say I'm sorry, and that everything's just going to pass and it's going to be okay. And it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way in business, and it doesn't work that way in a relationship. The path forward requires that you lean into the problems, that you lean into the conflict, that you lean into this blame game and say, no, 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 no. I'll own it when it's my fault. But when it's not my fault, or when you're trying to put everything on me, it's not going to go that way. It's not honest. It's not healthy. And you got to own it, my friend. You got to own it. So it's time to lead with truth and with courage and with grace. But you have to lead. So if this episode hit you or help you, make sure that you give the video a thumbs up. Post a question in the comments. Let me know where you're at. And do this. Answer this question. What is the one thing in your marriage that you've been carrying that's not really yours to carry anymore? That you've been carrying all the blame or all the fault, all the guilt, and it's time to let that go. And brother, if you're in the divorce pit and you're a high achiever and you're like, I know how to win, why am I not doing this? It's because you need a new frame. We were taught how to lead in business. We were not taught how to lead in a relationship. And I want to invite you to go to divorcetovictory.com, watch free masterclass, and then it's a fit and it hits you, and you're a high achiever who's ready to rebuild and move on, then book a call with me and let's talk. You don't have to carry the weight alone. But it is time to pick up your responsibility and to move. This one-way street blame game is over. It's over for both of you, or at least it's over for you. And either way, take a responsibility that's yours and move forward. So if this episode of Diary of a Divorce was powerful for you and you missed the first episode, click right here to watch the first episode. If you want to see the whole series, click right here. And if you are a man of faith and then you're in the divorce pit and you want to talk, click on the link in the description, divorcetovictory.com. Schedule a one-on-one breakthrough session with me and let's talk.